Hello and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett, and this episode I spoke with harpist and performer Sam Hickman. Sam is currently taking her show First Woman around the country with a view to taking it to the Fringe in 2027. We talk about First Woman, her previous show, Sexy Rude Harp Concert, and about finishing third in the 2026 Musical Comedy Awards. We also talk about social media promotion and how sometimes less polished is better. I started by asking Sam to give a brief introduction about herself.
Hold on, I'll put on a gloss first. It's really 10 a.m. in my house. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, here we are. I'm up, I'm awake, and I'm Sam Hickman, singer, harpist, comedian, cabaret star, costume designer, theatre producer, star on the rise, some would say. Others would disagree, but some would say that. Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the only thing about you, but the harp is front and centre of kind of what you do. It's almost like a double act. How do you get into playing harp? Because obviously, everyone takes up recorder, maybe if they feel adventurous, guitar. But, how do you get to harp?
I started really late, and I think, this is the story I tell all the time, I think my mother is really bad at giving gifts. So about 2 years ago, I said, Mom, for Christmas, I would really like knee-high wool maroon socks. That's the three things that I would like. I would like them to be knee-high, I would like them to be maroon or other color, and I would like them to be wool. And she heard that and said, Sam really needs a pair of welly socks that she can wear when she's wearing Wellingtons. And so she just got me knee-high socks. And I was like, okay, that is like close, but not really. And so apparently we were in a music shop one day and I pointed at a harp and I said, "Ooh, Mom, I would really love a harp." And she just got me like a really tiny, really cheap, inexpensive harp and was like, Sam really wanted a harp. So that's kind of how this started. It was apparently I pointed at one in a music shop and was like, I would like a harp. But I was probably just like, look, a harp. And my mother was like, Sam needs a harp more than anything in the world. Sam needs this. Yeah, and so that's how I started being a professional harpist.
Okay, so you almost felt guilty, and then you had to then carry through with it.
I think for me, harp is like one of those, because I grew up playing piano and violin, and I was absolutely terrible at both. And then I moved to harp, and I was like, oh, I can actually do this. Like, it works the same way my brain works in terms of like keys and accidentals, and just being able to like play it, and just be able to like feel very uninhibited by like the instrument itself. So like blessing in disguise, like it really all worked out very nicely, and here we are.
And obviously we'll talk about the comedy side and the performance side, but also as well as a harpist, obviously you've kind of used that as your weddings and events and things like that. The more traditional, shall we say?
I had a full career. I had a full life before the economy collapsed. I taught myself to play harp while I was at Cardiff University doing an undergraduate, doing like an academic music degree, which I don't think anyone should do. I learned a lot about Wagner, very little about the best friends with Hitler nonsense, but like, they were like, he does so many leitmotifs. I was like, that doesn't seems like we're really glossing over a little bit here. But I did an undergraduate there, and while I was there, I taught myself how to play harp on this little tiny harp that my mother had gotten me as like a little like going away present. And then I started busking with it on the streets of Cardiff. When I first went out, I knew 3 songs, and I just played 3 songs over and over again for an hour. And people were like, yes, we love this. This is great. And so I just kept doing that. And I kept getting like better at harp, and the harps kept getting bigger. And at one point after I graduated, I was like looking for other work. I was trying to get like any sort of career, any sort of office job. And I couldn't get one. And so I was still busking to kind of make ends meet. And the lounge manager at the Hilton in Cardiff saw me and was like, please come in, do a trial, come be our harpist. And so I went in, they really liked me. I was the resident harpist at the Hilton here for 2 years, which was really nice. And then they did a renovation on their restaurant, and the head chef was like, your job is secure, don't worry. And then I came in after the renovations, and the lounge manager looked at me and said, oh, you're still here. And that's how I knew I was out of a job. But yeah, I was like, for about 10 years, I was just like a straight professional harpist. With very little like pizzazz, very little of the Sam Hickman-ness that we all know and love today. But yeah, it was like, I think having that like very establishing career of like you are given the music, you know, you have to source the music, you have to arrange the music, you have to play the music, you have to show up on time to all these random places in the middle of nowhere. You have to like go into, I think it was like really formative and really good for establishing kind of a musical ability that I could then like build upon, because like nothing is going to be as hard as XYZ, you know?
With that, did the patter kind of come along in little fits and starts, or was it kind of nothing to everything?
It's so I was driving back from a gig. This was about 5 years into me being a professional harpist, and I was like, I had this thing that I used to do, which I called sweet charitying. Have you seen the musical Sweet Charity? When they're all singing, there's got to be something better than this. I used to get in my car after gigs and be like, there's got to be something better than this. There's got to be something easy to learn. And I was just like, I could always tell when my winter depression was like at its height, because I would get in the car after like a really nice, well-paid drinks reception. I'd be like, I have to get out of this job. And I was listening to the radio, and it was like a Bette Midler interview, and Bette Midler was like, yeah, they really want singer-songwriters. That's why I haven't been like producing albums that much, because nobody's like around to write me songs as much. So we're like rehashing a lot of old jazz standards and things. And like that's why From a Distance is on every single album. But she was like, the way the music industry has changed is that you need to be a singer-songwriter. And so I was like, oh, okay, so if I want to get out of like doing session work, I have to write my own material. And so in about 2018, I was like, I'm just going to write an album, and it's just going to be all sound-alikes to the songs that I like to sing, because then it's royalty free. So I like produced this really rubbish album of just like, here are a bunch of straight songs that are nice. And then I did it as like a show, like an album launch. But in my mind, the only rule was that I couldn't say this next song is. That was it. That was like the governing force. And I was kind of like, what if every time I'm talking on stage, it is as important as when I am playing the music? And so I kind of like formulated a little show to tell the story of the album. And then people really liked that, and people like really enjoyed that. And so it kind of grew from there, and kind of, I think where we are at the moment is we've kind of gone from a very theater genre into a more comedy forward kind of approach to the writing and everything.
Not to diminish it, but is the harp almost a vehicle rather than the primary thing now? So you're a comedian who plays the harp rather than a harpist who throws a few gags in.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think I'm very funny. So I'm like a 3 to a 7 out of 10 on a good day. I think for me, it is such an intrinsic part of my kind of my performance language that at this point it's like, no, we have to have the harp. That's like the thing that I can do. That's like the best in the world. And I think like being a singing harpist, I think is like there's only about 6 or 7 of us in the world, and I'm the best. No, I'm like maybe second, maybe third. And yeah, I think knowing your unique your USP, to bring it back to this marketing podcast I'm on, knowing your USP and knowing like what you do as a performer that is better than what anybody else can do, I think is really valuable when creating work. And I think that's kind of what I think that's where we're going, is like okay, the harp is not like the thing. The whole thing is the thing. The whole like Sam Hickman package is the thing, and we can't just like leave the harp because it's like, what? I'm gonna leave like the thing that everybody likes that I enjoy doing. That's crazy. What am I gonna do? Stand on a stage and talk at people? That's for somebody else. That's not for me.
Yeah. So if someone said, "Oh, can you do a 10-minute set, without the harp?"
Kill me. I mean, I could do it. I just wouldn't like it. I think especially moving from more like theater and cabaret into more comedy and doing more like straight comedy shows where they have no idea what's going on. I think it's really interesting kind of finding out what, like, how to do that. Yeah, just realizing like the thing that I do well, that I really enjoy doing, how to translate that to a more straight comedy audience. I think
Yes.
is really interesting. And I think it was like one of the things that when I did the musical comedy awards, even though Chortle hated it, it was kind of like, what can I do that is different from everybody else? Theater, cabaret, like absolute silence in which we all have to sit. Where will you wait for me to do something else? You know, and I was kind of like, that was kind of like, that's bringing the Sam Hickman experience to the masses.
How do you find that, in that you'll have different audiences? So some where maybe you're part of a mixed bill, and yes, the person before you did 15 minutes of, just traditional stand-up, and then
Plain old regular stand-up, vanilla stand-up.
then you come on with a harp. I mean, do you find some people are like, what the hell is this? Or some people are like, this is fantastic, and but it creates a reaction regardless.
Yeah, I think it depends on the show, to be honest with you. And I think like slowly moving into stand up and having like a lot of different gigs on at the moment. Like so I have a couple weeks ago I did in this same week what did I do? I did a show in Swansea that was like a burlesque cabaret. And they loved me. And I did Excess Malarkey in Manchester, and they loved me. And like I did like all sorts of different things. And I did like a show in Bristol that was for babies, and it was just me hosting a traditional stand-up show. And so I would like come out in all my different outfits and play my little songs, and I'd be like, here is an actual comedian. Let them come and come and do their jokes. And then like, yeah, I just kept coming back on and being silly. And I think whenever I do straight like stand-up comedy shows, I eat shit. I do so badly. I think it's the whole there's a woman on you're the only woman on the bill, hell. You're also like the musical comedian, double hell, like, and then you have to like come out in this silly little outfit and try and get people on board with my gay little jokes, and I'm like, please, this. I did like a straight show in November, and my parents came to it. And I was just doing like a 15-minute opening, like really easy, really simple, really fun. And I put my mother as a plant in the audience with a pair of jingle bells. And so I was doing like my Christmas song where I was like, okay, and then when we get to this bit, when I sing Fa La La, I need you to jingle the bells. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. This is going to be stupid. And then the whole set went so poorly. And it was like a set that I'd done a million times before. And it went so poorly in this room that every now and again, I could just hear my mother awkwardly shuffling the jingle bells when she was like uncomfortably like changing position in her seat, being like, oh God. But most of the time it's great. Most of the time people have a fabulous time with me. I'm very good at my job. So if nothing else, I'm good at playing harp.
Talk there about the Musical Comedy Awards, which you came third in.
Thank you. The runners up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the real first place.
Yeah. Someone was like, it's actually funnier to come third. And I was like, sure, I guess. Yeah, why not?
But no, I mean, that's it's really impressive. I've had quite a few people who've been part of the Musical Comedy Awards.
I know, I've listened to all the episodes.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
You have to say, like, it's so nice to just be the musical comedian.
How different is it to be one of many musical comedians? Or having a harp, do you still feel different?
I think, well, in my mind, because I am at the stage of my career where the imposter syndrome is like gigantic, I was kind of like, oh, they only really let me through the final because I wasn't a guitarist. Like, that's it. They needed another woman, and they needed somebody who didn't play guitar. And so they just were like, yeah, we'll get Sam in. Yeah, wild card, hard wink. She got the next most votes. And then I was like, when I won third, I was like, this is a pity fuck of an award, isn't it? Like, it's not second, it's not first. But I think, like, yeah, it was a fabulous time. I had a fabulous time. I had a remarkably good attitude to the Musical Comedy Awards, which is wild because very out of character for me. Usually I have the shittiest attitude in the building. But I think it's mostly because I misread what the prize was. And I thought it was £250. And I was like, oh, £250 for coming in and out of London 3 different times. That covers expenses, whereas it was £500. And I think if I'd have known that, I would have tried harder.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just a really fabulous time. For my semi-final, I led a vocal warm-up with all of the competitors. It was just really fun. It was really fun and silly, and I had a wonderful time. And yeah, everyone was really nice. It was really great experience. And I got like, I think coming in for the final, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna win, but I can be a star. Like the whole reason I did the musical comedy awards is because they get good press in. Like they last year they got like an Evening Standard, they got a chortle, they got a Funny Women, and I was like, if we could get anything that I can put on a poster, that I can just be like, and the Guardian says she's great or something like that, then like that helps sell shows. Like that's gonna just help the next Fringe run. That's gonna help the next tour, etc., etc. And so I was like, okay, that's what we're doing. I don't care if I win. I just need to be so different and so unique and do what I do that is like the thing that I do. And do what I do that is the thing that I do. Is that words? Media training. Um, and so like, yeah, I was just like, I just have to be myself. I just have to be unique. I just have to be different. And I just have to be the star. I just have to be the thing that people go, and there was a harpist and she was great. And she did a prayer. Yeah. And so that was kind of like the main goal of doing the musical comedy awards. And we got a really nice chortle review. So that's lovely. We can put that on a poster. And I made lovely friends.
That's the real prize.
It is the friends we make along the way.
Talking about musical comedy awards and kind of gigging and everything. So you've got a few things coming up. So you've got Brighton Fringe.
Yeah.
You're doing the Rick Mail Festival.
Yeah, I had such a fabulous time last year. It was so silly that I was like, I'll go back. I'll go back. It like sold itself. Everybody had a nice time. Everybody was really silly and game. People gave me cash afterwards. I was like, yeah, I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
I mean, a lot of people talk very, very positively about festivals like Women in Comedy in Manchester, the
Yeah.
Brighton Fringe, and then whenever you talk about Edinburgh Fringe, everyone's a bit like, oh, they feel like it's a necessary evil.
I've never done it.
But I think you're saying that you were thinking of it, but you decided not to this year.
That's a very kind reading of the situation. I was hoping to do it and I didn't get anywhere that I wanted. It was kind of the thing. Because I'm kind of like, I don't know if you know this, but I am industry baby. And in my mind, I'm like, I gotta be at the good venue. I gotta do, like, if I'm gonna spunk that much money, it's gotta be worth the time. It's gotta be worth the time and the effort. I'm not doing it for the love of the art. Like, I could go to Droitwich Spa for the love of the art. At this point, I'm just like, if I'm gonna do it, we gotta do it. Like, we gotta go all in, balls deep. We gotta be at like the good venue that's gonna get really good press that we can then put on the poster, so we can then sell more tickets to next tour. Yeah, and so I was just sort of like, I was very convinced that this was going to be the year that I went up, and then I didn't get it anywhere. So I was like, I'm not. That's fine. We'll get, like, what's the rush?
Yeah.
What's the rush?
Without wanting to kind of tread on your pain, as it were. I mean, what is the process for that? Because I think, I mean, as an outsider, I almost kind of think, you give them the money, and they say thank you very much, and you get a spot. But
Yeah.
a lot of places, I mean, how much of a audition or an application process is it?
I think for me, I'm very poor. So I was kind of like, how do I do this? Like, what is the best way? Because like, I don't know about you, but I don't have £5,000 to £10,000 to spend on a vanity project for a month, in the hopes that I become an industry star baby reindeer. And so for me, the way that I was kind of really banking on going up was, there was a local theatre here in Cardiff called the Sherman Theatre, and they have a partnership with the Pleasance every year. And last year we were like the runner-up in that, and I was like, oh, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year that we go. And so I was kind of like, I put in my Arts Council grant, I put in my application with them. I was like, this is going to be great. And they were like, absolutely not. And I was like, oh, okay, well, never mind. And I think I applied to like a couple other places, and I was just like, you know what? If we don't hear back, like I think there's so much logistical challenges with bringing a harp into a venue, and like the big ones that like are kind of vaguely purpose built have a lot more step-free access from stage to backstage. And so I kind of had to really, like, that narrows down your choices quite significantly. And like being able to have storage for an instrument that big and being able to like, yeah, like the logistical challenges of it are quite big. But like people bring big sets to Edinburgh all the time, so it's not really that like catastrophic. Like it wouldn't, if you knew what you were doing and there was a producer who was like, yes, we can absolutely fit it in XYZ venue, then like I'd be happy to go up to XYZ venue or whatever. But I think at this point I'm like, I'll just wait. I'll wait until this, people are really like frothing at the mouth to see me, do a silly little show or whatever.
Do you think there's a kind of a happy medium where you go up for 5 days a week? I mean, it's obviously a bit harder with a harp. You can't just kind of tag it around and say, oh yeah, I was just passing. I can do 20 minutes.
Well, I'm going up this year because a bunch of the musical comedy people are doing like some mixed bill stuff, which is really fun. And so I'm going up for like the last week, I think, for like a couple of shows, which I think will be really fun. And I'm taking my little teeny tiny harp. But like, again, it's one of those things where if any harp, I can't really take it on the train because it will take up 3 seats. And so I'm just like, I had to get it back from London the other day, and I was on a packed train, and I had to put it on like the little, when you're at the table and there's like the 4, the 2 and the 2, and I had to put it on the other 2, and this like, and I was like the villain of the train because I was just like, I have to, like, the little luggage racks are too small for the harp to go on, so I have to just sort of like take up so much space. And I think, yeah, like the minute you have to like throw in a harp, you're like, this is just logistically, it's so much more difficult. There's so much you have to like think about. There's so much more driving you have to do. But yeah, like, and also with like hotels and staying places, you have to get somewhere, if you're taking the big one, that is step-free access so that you can get the harp in and out of the building. Yeah, it's logistically it's a little bit of a challenge, but I'm excited to take the little teeny tiny harp up this year and snoop around and mostly just like see if I could get places and do things. And I think it's just logistically it's just like quite a tricky one. And I don't think I'm in a rush. I don't think I'm in a rush to do it, I think the more I just sort of like keep touring and keep gigging and things, the more you'll like build the allure of doing an Edinburgh show, and people will be like, we know who this woman is. We'll go to it,
Yeah, it's kind of chicken and egg, I guess. Isn't it? A lot of people think, I'll go to Edinburgh, I'll build a bit of a
I'll be a star,
and then I can tour off the back of that, like you said, 4 stars from the Scotsman, whatever else it might be.
Anything, and a pull quote that says like good. Like she was on time. Yeah.
And then go round. But yeah, you're almost kind of doing it the other way and kind of building a show first. And it's always difficult.
And the show's bad. The show is awful. First Woman, terrible. It's genuinely like I'm doing it and I'm like, this is a whip. Why did I not do a year of whips? I was really convinced that I was gonna like have the show in its entirety, this beautiful little present I was going to give to the world. And every single time I do it now, I'm like, well, there's room for improvement. It could be better.
So if they had said yes for August, I mean,
I'd take up my little piece of shit show. Yeah, obviously.
But between now and August, would you have been just kind of work in progress the hell out of it?
I mean, technically I am, but I'm just doing it on tour. I mean, it's like it's finished in the sense that the ending keeps changing every single time I do the show. And I think it's like, especially going from all the different audience sizes, I think is really big. Because like with the last show I did, Sexy Rude Harp Concert, I had done that to audiences from like 8 people in a tent in the middle of nowhere to like 100 people in a really packed theater. And I'd done it and I knew exactly where all the jokes were and I knew exactly what songs landed, what like how the tension would build, everything like that. I knew like the feel of it in my body and everything like that. And so going from a show that I was very confident with to a new little baby that I'm trying to push out the nest before it's got its wings, I think it's like, it's really it's part of the journey, the rich tapestry of creating fringe theater. And solo shows is just trying to trying to figure out what is going to work no matter what, and what is going to be like a bulletproof show. And I think we did the show at Bristol Comedy Festival. We did like a whip, but I've been whipping it all last year as well. So we did like a Bristol show where I was like, okay, this is kind of where we're going. This is what it is. And then we did it in Leicester, and I was like, this is the perfect show. This is it. We're going to win awards. It's going to be fantastic. And then I did it in London at the Camden People's Theatre, and we sold like 12 tickets. There were 3 people on the front row that showed up incredibly stoned. And it was, there were only like 9 other people in the room, and they were just giggling at everything but not the jokes. And I was like, oh, this is hell. And I was halfway through one of the monologues, and I just looked at the guy in the front row, like giggling his little butt off, and I was like, oh, this is not English to you. I'm not saying words. I'm just a sparkly thing. I'm just sparkly tower lady. And yeah, I think that like having because the last section is kind of like the last section is the tricky bit. I was talking to a fabulous comedian, Laurie Watts, and they were like, oh really, the bit where you tie it all together, that's the hard bit that you're struggling with? Wow, groundbreaking. But yeah, I think the just trying to find the ending and find an ending that works, because we did it in London and I was like, oh god, this is like not the ending, because it needs to be, because I wanted to do like a very quiet ending where I do like a physical bit of like a physical theater, because I love doing a pratfall. I just want to do a barrel roll across a stage, and you can't do that when your show is a harp show. And so, yeah, I was kind of like, how do I get like a little bit of physical comedy into it, please? And so we had this one ending that I was very happy with, and then I did it in London, and then I did it in Glasgow, and I was like, no, absolutely, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And then, yeah, we're retooling everything for the Brighton Fringe, and I'm kind of like going back in, because one of the main bits of the feedback that one of my friends gave me was like, it needs to have as much singing as physically possible. Like, it needs to have as many songs, because the songs are really good. The talky bits are good, but the songs are what is like selling it. And I think trying to develop a show, especially because First Woman was designed to be a fringe show. We took everything from Sexy Rude Harp Concert that was like good, and we took everything that was like a lot of work. Like in Sexy Rude Harp Concert, there was a burlesque number halfway through. And so it's like, I don't want to, for an entire month, be having to get like zipped into a burlesque number and then have to do it. And then like, it was just like a lot of work, and I didn't want to be trapped in the same costume for an entire run, or like then an entire tour. So it was just sort of like, how do we build it? Like, how do we build it as a fringe show? So like the final song of the show is the bucket speech and things like that. And, just trying to continue just like refining, finding the audience, so that we get to the point with First Woman that we had with Sexy Rude Harp Concert, where I just know everything's going to be okay. And I just know like, if they don't laugh here, it's because there's not enough people in the room. It's not because it's not good. It's just, there's no one who gets it. Yeah. And I think that's like the journey that we all go on as artists, is just to like understand the show, what we're trying to say, but also the audience as well.
Was there any kind of thought of keeping with Sexy Rude Harp Concert and kind of just pushing that everywhere first? Because if you're happy that it's done, and kind of, but almost tired of it's totally unfair. But if you've done a show countless times, you obviously the creative, you want to move on, you want to do things new, but obviously to you it's You've done it loads of times, but other people, it's completely new and completely fresh. And how do you find that balance between kind of sticking with what works and trying something new that maybe does or doesn't, or at least initially?
I think it's two things. We toured it for 2 years at that point, and I was like, it's not like Sexy Rude Harp Concert was like, it was quite comedy, but it wasn't as comedy forward as First Woman. Like, it wasn't actively, it was a theater show that had like, it was comedic musical. Whereas I think First Woman is more musical comedy. And so like, it's a little bit easier to sell the genre, to be like, no, it's going to be jokey songs. You're going to enjoy it. And as well, like, Sexy Rude Harp Concert was mostly about the hyperfetishization and sexualization of trans women, but through the perspective of like what it kind of feels like to be a vaguely cis-passing trans lady. And so, and people did not understand that. People like really were like, oh, it's a show about her getting fucked. Great. And so it was just sort of like, okay, how I need to write a show that is a bit more like a Sam Hickman show for dummies. Something that says a lot more on like the surface, and like we don't have like there's no subtext in First Woman. There's no subtext. You got to take that out of there. And I think as well, just with Sexy Rude Harp Concert, I feel like it said less for the time. And I feel like, because there was like a pandemic number in it, and every time I did it, I just felt like we were getting further away from like the lockdowns and it feeling really resonant. And I was like, it's, we gotta like have something that's a little bit more timeless. And so with like First Woman, the whole thing is just set last year. That's it. That's our time. Everything had just happened last year. It doesn't matter when it happened last year. It was all last year. And so like rolling, it makes perfect sense. But I think with taking a show that like I just love doing horrible things to myself. I think that's the real answer to this question. Is I just really enjoy making myself suffer for my art. And I think in order to do that, here we are. But also I wanted to make a show that said more about the world in which we live in now. And I think, especially with like the Supreme Court ruling and with like the incredibly hostile world in which we live, I wanted to make a show that was more about that and more about how I live in the world and how I feel about living in the world with less subtlety, like, you know, more like, here is what it is. There you go. Delicious. Eat that.
You know, you're in Cardiff. What's the kind of creativity scene like there?
Great. No notes. Thriving, some would say. I think it's funny because like I don't really work here anymore. Like I'm doing one show here and that's it. And last year I've spent like 10 years trying to have a career here and like really like make it work. And it's a tough scene. I think it's a tough crowd. I think as well, there's not like that big an appetite for like alt comedy. So I think so last year I tried to do like a monthly show and we could not give tickets away for it. People did not want to come to it. Bearing in mind my programming was like incredibly Sam Hickman programming. Like our last show was like, well, it was in a tent in the middle of winter. And I was like, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be fantastic. Our last show, because I was like, I want all of my guests to be like fun and silly and like whatever. Our last show ended up being an accordion player and clowns. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's like the two things that people notoriously are afraid of or hate. And they were fabulous, and I absolutely adore both of the acts that we got, and they were like the best little Christmas present to myself.
And so yes, you've got a podcast that kind of ties in a little bit about that with kind of hyper-local celebrity.
Sure.
Just
me complaining. It used to be really good. I used to have guests on, and now it's just me being like, this is what I'm up to. This is what I'm doing. I'm tired all the time. I hate the island of Guernsey. I'll go on record. I'm never going back. Yeah. So
yes, you kind of like you said, you went to Guernsey, kind of doing a traditional Harpist
tour. A care home tour, which was really fun. Like, I do still occasionally book like weddings and events and things, which is really nice, and it does pay significantly better than all of the comedy shows I do. But yeah, it was a lot. It was a really labor intensive 2 weeks.
I was going to say, yes, on the podcast, yes, you know, a lot of the time you're just speaking to camera, as it were.
Yapping.
Just yapping. I mean, how do you find that? Because you know, I know I'm chatting on the podcast, but the concept of kind of...
But you have another person to talk to?
Yeah. But do you feel you kind of need to get it out, otherwise it'll just run around in your head forever?
No. I have a diary and I keep a diary, so I've never had these problems. I think for me, it was kind of like, so I started Hyperlocal Celebrity, and I, like, for many, many years, I was like, oh, I would like to do a podcast, because I love a podcast as a medium. I I really wanted to do one, and I did do like a two-hander with my friend that was called Women Talking About Star Trek Voyager. And it was a Star Trek Voyager recap podcast, and every 2 weeks, every month, we would do an episode of Star Trek Voyager, and we talk about it, blah, 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 blah. It was like a really good, silly project. We're on hiatus at the moment, but like before that, I really wanted to do like a podcast about my work and like how like all of like the failures and successes, and also like the Cardiff creative scene, and like do interviews and all sorts of things. And it wasn't until I started listening to Julie Klausner's How Was Your Week, where she just talks, like it's just her alone talking when she doesn't have guests, and she's just talking to the audience. And I was like, oh, you can just do like a solo podcast. You can just shoot the shit with absolutely no one. And so I was kind of like, okay, I could do that, and I could just recap everything that's happened. And I think for me, I kind of started it as this kind of resource for other performers and other harpists to be like, this is what I've done, this is where I am, this is how long it took me to get here, etc., etc. And so I was just sort of like, I just want to create a resource that I can also look back on and be like, oh gosh, why did I do that? You know, like how do I learn from my mistakes? I have to listen to the podcast episode and be like, don't go to Guernsey. Don't do it. You'll spend most of the time just lying on the floor of the shower. Yeah. But yeah, I think for me, if I didn't ever do another episode of Hyperlocal Celebrity, I don't think anyone would care. Like we get like 3 monthly listeners, and I'm like, those are the real ones. But like at the same time, it is like all content is. Yeah, all content is marketing. All marketing is content. Like, if you can put something out there that's like, I'm clearly working. I'm clearly a professional who knows what they're doing. I'm clearly, you know, I can clearly formulate some sort of joke out of some sort of life experience. I can tell you a story. I can do a model. Like, if somebody's going to listen to 20 minutes of you just rambling, like, in a podcast format, they'll come to a show when you're in town. So, yeah, I think it's a useful tool to have in the arsenal of marketing.
Yeah, and I mean, like we talked a little bit about at the start about kind of social media and all the rest of it.
I hate it. Oh, I hate it.
You're someone who is very very active. I'm very active on social media in terms of, but I'm more of a lurker. You know, I'm interested in kind of seeing what people do, but the kind of effort, the mental effort more than the physical effort of kind of, let's put something out, and you kind of think, oh, the moment then passes. I mean, is it something that you feel you have to be on top of it and drive through it, and it don't need to be a job, but it is almost a kind of job?
I think for me, it's like trying to find games that I enjoy doing, because like there's like a couple of bits that I'm really enjoying doing that nobody else cares about except for me. And it is just like, there's two like quote unquote campaigns that I'm currently doing. And one is whenever I film the show and I do the show, there is like a British Comedy Guide review that's it's something along the lines of, quote, like, she told a joke so rude that the couple at the end of the row nearly spilt an entire carafe of white wine that they acquired during the interval, end quote, dash the British Comedy Guide. And so I put it over the audience reaction to the joke, and that like really worked quite well in getting people really like in the door of like, what is the joke, because you're not telling the joke, you're just saying like this is how the audience react to it, and it's just text on screen. And I like can do that every single time, and we're not burning through any material, we're not using anything, and also you can see what the audience is like, which I think is really interesting, because like some audiences, like it's 30 solid seconds of people losing their minds, and some audiences it's 5, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay. And it like, for me, it really helps cement the like, no, you're fine at your job. You can do it. Like, you're all right. And then the other one that I'm really enjoying doing, because I think you just have to do bits. I think in terms of like social media, for me, I'm not putting in, like, there was a time where I was putting in a lot of like production and effort and everything. And at this point, I'm like, if I do something and it hits, great, whatever. But I'm doing another bit that I really, really love, which is tap water reviews. which is because I travel for work, and I like my favorite thing about traveling for work is trying different tap water. On the spectrum, who knew? And so I was just sort of like, whenever I go places, I can just have like the format, the little formula to be like, hello, my name is Sam Hickman, I travel for work. One of my favorite things about traveling for work is trying different tap water. And then I like hold the tap water, I'm like, let's give this a try. And then I just try the tap, and then I'm like, that's, you know, that's the whole thing. And some people really, really enjoy that. And some people are like, what is this? But it is just like very simple to create content that just push it, like it's to camera. People love to camera. And just being able to push that out there and be like, there you go, there you go, feed the little machine. But yeah, I think it's an interesting thing in terms of like selling shows, because like sometimes I've had jokes from the show do really well, and like some last year I went viral on Facebook, and and I was like, oh, what's happening here? And then I looked, and it was just people being rude, and I was like, no, absolutely not, absolutely fucking not. I just deleted it. I was like, we're not. I don't want that. But I think it is like, I think for me, it's the classic, like, I'd rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's 9th favorite thing. Like, I'd rather have the little gay cult following that I have of people who would be like, you're coming to town, I've seen this show 3 times, I'll see it again. Than like, yeah, like people who are like, I don't know, sure, whatever, you know? I don't know, I just think it, because like the thing that I was really reluctant to do, like the thing that I found with stand-up that really kept me out of it for quite a long time was it always seemed like you were introducing yourself to a room full of strangers. And like when you're doing like small sets, etc., you are just being like, here is the distilled version of myself, especially when you're like an othered person. And I didn't really I didn't want to give so much of myself away from the top to a room full of strangers. And so I was kind of like, with Sexy Rude Harp Concert, I was like, okay, the idea behind it is that I walk out on stage and you know who I am. Like, that's it. Like, from a ground level, you are already a fan. And I think like that's kind of how I approach everything, is I walk on stage and you already know who I am. Even if you have no idea, you kind of know. And so I think, yeah, with like social media and things, I do think it's helping like get the little face out there so people know what I look like. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but it feels like I do a lot of post and ghosting. I do a lot of just like dump it out, leave. When I have something good to say, come back. I think it's whenever you're trying to like force it out, it is just like forcing out a poo, and you're just going to end up with shit on your hands.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
that's the end.
Social media.
I'll click that up. You mentioned we quite a lot when you talk about we in the show. Is that the kind of royal we, or do you have people you kind of bounce ideas off?
Well, I have my wonderful co-producer. She's called Amy Lloyd. She mostly just proofreads things. But I have this little sickness where I have to say we, because God forbid a woman take credit for all the work. And I do feel like I'm like preparing myself for when there's like a full team of people behind me to be like, yes, we did this. And really it's just like me in my office by myself, making all the costumes, doing all the jokes, writing all the songs, having to listen back to all the recordings to be like, oh, not that. Yeah, I think it's just this very reflexive thing where I'm like, and I'm not alone doing it by myself, because there's lots of us here. It's definitely the royal we. Yeah. It's absolute delusions. She's a star, you know, so why wouldn't she have a costume department?
So yes, you're doing a few shows of First Woman. Is there a plan for like the next 6 to 12 months to say, right, I want to do it in 15 different cities? Or is it very much little bits here and there?
At this point, I'm like, if I never have to do First Woman again, fine. Like, let's just go to the next one. Let's just go to the next one. I'm really tempted to just be like, absolutely bail on this one. It's too hard, like, it's too big a concept of a show. Because the concept of the show is like, I socially transitioned 15 years ago. So for my entire adult life, I've been Sam Hickman, she, her, beautiful woman. And so it's kind of like, and then about 4 years ago, I started medical transition. And it's kind of looking at how that changed because like essentially going through puberty much later in life and being like, I feel weird about my body all the time now. And then having like the Supreme Court ruling being like, oh, and actually now you're not a woman. And being like, I've never known a world in which I have not been Sam Hickman, beautiful woman. What are we talking about? And so it's kind of like, it's a big theme for a show, and it's like a very heavy thing to have to like bring to people and be like, what if you woke up one day and you were no longer recognized by the state? And yeah, it's a lot, and I haven't quite figured it out. And every time we do it, I kind of get a little closer. But at this point, at this juncture, I feel absolutely broken by it, and I just want to be like, we're doing whips of a different show, and it's going to be called, a regular woman plays an oddly shaped ukulele. And I'm really in my mind, I would like the next one to be like a little tiny lever harp show so that I can take it on the bus. Like that's really what I want. But yeah, I think looking for the next 6 to 12 months. I think the next 6 to 12 months, chaos, fun, silliness, potentially a major surgery that I will spend 3 to 6 months recovering from. Good times had by all. I think my dream is that we figure out First Woman and we do it 2027 Edinburgh Fringe run. Yeah. And we win 1 million awards and people love it, and I figure it out, and it's like, the answers are presented to me, because I feel like with Sexy Rude Harp Concert, it just sort of like appeared fully formed in my mind, but also I had the entirety of 2023 to just sort of like percolate it and think about it constantly and let it just sort of like ruminate and form in my mind before I had to like actually present it. Whereas like with First Woman, I've been working on it for 3 years now, and I'm like, I still don't have it, guys. Yeah. Like I have most of it. I have the majority of it. I know what we're saying. I know what the show's about. I just don't know how to like, get that like that little tiny 5 minutes right before the end to be like, and this is what we're trying to say. I think because it is like a Sam Hickman show for dummies. I'm like, and we actually have to say it. We can't just imply it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, speak to quite a lot of people who it's a solo show, but they will have a director, producer, second eye, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Does it feel like not cheating, but it's you, it's your story, you want to do it?
God, yes. I would love a dramaturg. So originally with all of the funding for the Edinburgh Fringe stuff and taking Edinburgh Fringe, we were going to have a director come in, we were going to have a dramaturg come in, we were going to have like a bunch of people come in and just sort of shape it a little bit more. And I think if we had gotten that, I would not be sitting here being like, God, help me. But yeah, I think especially trying to get to like, this is the complete form. I think once we have that like locked in and I know like, oh, this is what this is it, then like bringing on extra people to be like, we should change this, I think makes it a lot easier, because you kind of like know already what the jam is, so you can like add your pectin or whatever, I don't know. But I worked when I was doing all of the work in progress shows, and when I was like, I did a scratch night, and we had a wonderful director, Elliot Aiken, and he came in and was just like, here's some friendly advice for the last little bits of the show. Here's like all of my critique and everything. And that really helped like inform a lot of how the show ends. Yeah, I would like to get to a point at which I have something that looks like a vaguely completed, coherent show before I like bring in people to be like, actually, what if you changed it? Because then I can justify everything. And I think that's like the big thing that I've had like doing like all the whips and everything and like touring the show. I'm kind of like, I don't know about all the choices. But if we got to a point in which like I was like, no, all the choices make sense and I can justify the choices. And if you have a better idea, we'll change the choices. Whereas at this point, I'm like, I don't, it's sand. I'm building a sand castle, and the mean kids are gonna come over, and the waves are gonna come in, and the tide's gonna turn. I would love to get other people in. But I'm also at a panic, at a crossroads. I feel like I started this so confident, and now I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Help, I'm drowning. The ocean has taken me away. A riptide. I'm being carried out to sea. Shamu. Yeah.
No, that's. I mean, I always find that interesting that a solo show in particular is
Yeah.
very personal to what you do, and then someone
I wish
comes.
it wasn't.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
the next show, a regular woman plays an oddly shaped ukulele. It's just gonna be observational comedy. That's it. It's just gonna be like, I'm worried my boyfriend is basic. Yeah, it's gonna be that. It's gonna be that. It's gonna be that. It's like, have you ever listened to a sound bath in the shower? Yeah.
criticism.
Oh, I love feedback. I even unconstructive. I want someone to be like, "You're a fat cunt," and I'll be like, "Fair, honestly, fair." Yeah, that's I think that too. I think yeah, I love feedback. I think especially I think it's like a horse before the cart thing where I'm like, I just need to like understand why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. And then if somebody was like, you could change this, I'd be like, yes, please, please, please. And I think that was like the really useful thing about especially getting like reviewers in for the whips. It was really interesting. We got like a really nice review in All That Dazzles that was just like, it's good, but like, why is she doing this? You know, like it was like the first 30 minutes of this show are fantastic. What are the last 30 minutes? Like she loses us quite significantly and it becomes a lot of the same thing. And I was like, that's very fair. I do need to make this a personal show about my life rather than just me getting laid all the time. But yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, but I was just sort of like, yeah, I love feedback. I welcome all feedback. Please, if you ever come to the show and you're like, I didn't like that, please tell me and tell me why. And in a lot of detail. I need like a diatribe. I need several. Just get ChatGPT to write you more things, and I'll read it and be like, interesting, okay, interesting, okay. But I love feedback. I love. Sometimes I have a really shitty attitude most of the time, but I will read it.
Thanks to Sam for coming onto the podcast. You can find out more details about where to find Sam both online and on tour in the show notes. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes of variety comedians, musicians, authors and others in creative industries talking about trying to make creativity pay. Thanks for listening.